Solo: A Star Wars Story is finally on Disney Plus. So make sure you go watch it so that we can have more incentive to make Solo 2 happen. But you know what's not on Disney Plus? TRB, baby! But we're back here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, all of your audio apps, wherever you are listening to a podcast right now. We are there, and we are in your ears, in your eyes, in your hearts. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John. With me, as always, James and Lacey. And speaking of Apple Podcasts, we ran a little promotion that we called Rate the Resistance, where we asked you to rate us on Apple Podcasts and take a screenshot of your rating and tweet to us at RBATSWNN using hashtag Rate the Resistance. And you all did it. A lot of you. So we appreciate that. We really appreciate that. Did you guys read through those reviews? Some of them are so nice.
I'm terrible with compliments. So anytime someone compliments me, no matter what it is, it could be like, hey, that's a cool cup. I'm like, what? So
even if it's even if it's not to your face and you're just reading something someone said?
Yeah, it makes me feel so awkward.
Really? Lacey, can I tell you something?
I always read them and I'm like,
you're really great at what you do.
Stop. James, what were you saying?
Just that I always read them and go, you're just saying that to get the t-shirt.
Dude, and the t-shirt, I'm wearing it. So that's one of the perks of being on the shows. You still get to get the t-shirt. So, because the t-shirt, the red Make Solo 2 Happen is not available anymore. James was like, it's gone. That's it. May 25th was the day.
Special occasion.
You had your chance, people, and then he just pulled the lever like the Death Star tractor beam. Boo! Gone. Red Makes Solo 2 Happen gone. But someone won it, and we have it now. We have the winner. We've had past winners of Rate the Resistance. They got to pick their shirts. They have them. They wear them. They love them. We'll do another one probably in the fall. Probably when Mando comes back. Maybe we'll give away a Mando fan show shirt or something like that. But right now, the winner of this version of hashtag Rate the Resistance is... And it's not the guy who played Count Dooku, just so everyone is certain. Christopher Lee at Mr. Chris Lee 24. Chris, thank you so much for your review. It was charming, funny, and we appreciate it very much. And also, anytime anyone leaves a review for us on Apple Podcasts, it helps us pop up more in the searches. So we really do appreciate that. Because it's been a war with us on Apple Podcasts. Let's be honest. We gotta do what we gotta do over there.
We're at war.
Win the war. So we appreciate that.
Win the war.
We're gonna DM you so we can get your information to send you this limited red variant of Make Solo 2 Happen. Anything you guys want to say quick to Chris?
I appreciate you just taking the extra time to actually do it, because nobody thinks they're going to win in a contest. They think they're doing it, like I said, you're just doing that to win the t-shirt. Nobody ever thinks they're going to win the t-shirt. They're making the effort because they actually legitimately like the podcast and they're listeners, so they even know about the contest in the first place. So, anytime anybody actually does step up, it's for the right reason, to actually promote us, I think, in a way. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much. That was so nice of you. I'm sorry I didn't read it because I get awkward, but I'm sure it was super, super wonderful.
Let's pull it up here. I think it was all about Lacey, actually. But no. All right. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Congratulations. And thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody who entered. We appreciate it very much. And like we said, even though you didn't win, you helped us out, and that means a lot. But don't worry, we're going to have some new giveaways coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned.
Starting today.
Very soon. Really, really soon.
Maybe we'll talk about it at the end of the show.
Yeah. So watch to the end of the show. That's your penalty. All right, penalty. Guys. It's time for Resistance Report, James. What's going on, buddy?
It's the Resistance.
So we actually got a little bit of surprising news, something that kind of came out of nowhere. And when we usually get stuff that comes out of nowhere. It's like, like some book announcement. You're like, well, I knew they were going to announce a book, or it's like some sort of like, hey, we're announcing the next movie or something. It's like, well, we knew that was going to come eventually. Didn't expect it today. But this is actually legitimately something that I did not expect to see. And that is an official Mandalorian theme music video featuring Ludwig Gorannson. I mean, we all know who he is, right? He is the mastermind behind the Mandalorian soundtrack and music and everything that goes into that for this particular TV show. But it kind of has an overall theme that, he's kind of a hip hop producer. He's like, hey man, when I write music, I do music videos. So boom, we got this. And just as a quick thing for myself, man, it didn't feel like he just, it weird. I know, cause it kind of starts like in a studio and that's kind of the point, but it didn't feel like it was just like he brought in somebody to do this. Obviously all of the effects and everything being part of the volume, We'll get into it a little bit more, but it is definitely like a Lucasfilm production. I feel like they paid for this. So I'm going to start with Lacey on this one. Lacey, what did you think of this music video? Did you expect it? Did you like it? Do you want to see more?
It was totally surprising, like you said, James. I think when we saw the post online, we were like, yes, something news related that we can talk about. That's not a book. Oh my gosh.
Hey, we got books coming later.
I know. Sorry. I wasn't, and that's not a diss to the books, but come on, guys. There's only so many books I could talk about. This is a book club. All right. Anyway, as I was saying, music video, awesome, beautifully shot. Which I thoroughly appreciate. There's the one shot that they used as the header in the Vanity Fair article that I tweeted out being like, this, I'm obsessed with this photo. It's where the mask is on his desk with like really cool lighting and stuff in the background. And he's so cool. I just want to like chill with him for a little bit. I feel like he'd have like really cool stories to tell. He seems like one of those people that's like, yeah, this one time. And then he'd like 3 hours later, you're like, oh my God. And that's how you got pizza? And he's just like, yeah, man. Like that's like, I feel like that's the kind of guy he is. But other than that, what?
I was going to say, he reminds me of Jared Leto, like so much.
I
Really?
can see that. I can see that. He's
every time I see him, I think, is that Jared Leto? No, I think that's the guy from The Mandalorian.
Is that the guy that ruined the Joker? No, it's actually a wonderful guy that writes amazing music. Which of course I know Jared Leto writes music before people get mad at me.
Right.
Anyway.
Good band.
Yes. That being said, going back to what I was saying, the article's really cool when he talked about the process of how he, met with Jon Favreau and talked about what it was all about. And then he went back to his studio and kind of locked himself away for a month and got to experiment and figure things out, which is just a really cool, interesting process. Because I feel like, I'm sure John Williams doesn't do that. Like just experiment with different instruments. Like he probably just goes back and writes because everybody has a different creative process. But I liked how he described it as the way he used to write music when he was a kid. And that this project made him feel like a kid again in the way that I feel like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have said it too, is like, playing in your toy box and picking up the other action figures and what story can you come up with that are left over from your older sibling taking the good ones. So he's just so cool. This video is cool. I'm glad they did it. And I think the music is just something that's so different from all other Star Wars music. I'm glad it got kind of its own little spotlight here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the music video.
Mm-hmm.
I think I agree with you, Lacey. I think he's probably a pretty cool person, someone that you'd want to talk with. I wouldn't mind having a conversation with him.
And that's how we got pizza.
Yeah. Because everything's like, so me and Donnie were hanging out and you're like, Donnie? And he's like, oh, Donald Glover. Like,
Donnie?
all the stories have like these. Yeah. Oh, I mean, whatever he calls him,
Yeah.
He calls him
DG.
childish. Yeah.
Yeah. But but no, I really liked the music video, and I thought I was really blown away by how interestingly they used the volume in the music video. And I kind of, from his perspective, I mean, we think about it all the time, like, oh man, he got the opportunity to do this or whatever. But even if that were me and I was writing the songs for The Mandalorian, I would still be probably more pumped to go to the set and shoot a music video in the volume than I would having worked on the score. Mm-hmm. 'Cause I mean, being able to have these like these Facebook photos of like you sitting on a rock in front of the mountain, you know, and you're like, that's awesome. You just forever have these like really cool promo shots that have a very specific history of like, you know, he's, you know, I mean, he's been involved in stuff before. He has done, not, I don't want to say acting, but he's been on film before. And probably doesn't often get to participate in front of the camera on that level, you know what I mean, using this technology to the advantage, and
he's
having a music video that ends in like Lucasfilm and stuff at the end of it, you know, very, very cool.
So James, did watching, like, anytime you watch a music video, do you think about your time making them, or do you make comparisons like, oh, I remember this reminds me of this?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Because obviously, like, I have history of making music videos, and I'm looking at them in a certain sense of like, okay, so how was this done? This one's not too complicated. I mean, a lot of it is him just like playing through. They're probably doing, you know, painting shots back and forth. So he just does like a full playthrough of the song, and then they cut it together later. That's why I thought the more interesting stuff was probably him going to the set of the volume. That's actually, I will say, like, one negative thing about the song, or the suite, the Mandalorian suite, if you will, here. Because sometimes it did just feel like it would switch to him in the next instrument, you know, and he'd be like, ba, 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 you know, and then he's like playing chopsticks on the piano, do, 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 you know, like, and I'm just, it felt weird sometimes because it kind of reminded me of those like Shreds videos. Have you ever seen those?
No. What is that?
No. It's when like they'll take like a concert like Santana or Green Day or something, right? And it's like real concert footage, but then every time they cut to like the singer, like they'll do like bad vocals, like right,
okay.
And then they like cut to the guitarist, and the guitarist is really like doing something crazy, but then they'll just be like it's like really bad. But the point, the connection I'm trying to make is that every time they cut to that instrument, they completely focus on that instrument, and all the other instruments stop. So then you cut to the drummer, and it's like do 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 do,
right,
you know,
right.
And the guitar has stopped. So it felt like they were playing the song, but every time they cut to him and doing a new instrument, all of a sudden now you hear that instrument like really loud and proud. And the big one to me was the piano, because I audibly laughed out loud when I saw it, because I thought it was like the real song and then another added track of piano. And I'm like, I don't think it is, though. I think that piano track is really in the real song. But it sounded just like he was like in the room going like do 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 do,
yeah,
do 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 do, you know. I'm like, this stands out and is weird
because the orchestra wasn't over it yet. That's why.
Right.
Or something. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could go back and analyze it, but I only really watched it like one and a half times, you know, kind of flipping through. But yeah, that's what I got to say, John. Go ahead. It's your turn. I loved it. I'm glad they did it. And there's definitely parts in it that I'm like, do more of these. These are really cool. I love this. And I'm glad that it made, I just, you know, that I did think that was my reaction to it.
I thought the music video was cool. The part that always gets me in that song is when the intro is very long, but when it starts getting really chaotic and all those weird techno digit sounds really amp up, and then you just hear the do-dong. That part always gives me chills. and they show him hitting the drums at that point with the show in the background, like he's tracking it.
Yeah.
I really like that part of the video a lot because it's his silhouette. You see his hair and you see him hitting the drums. It almost felt like an old, like even like old Metallica music video or something. But, you know, the interview too is really cool. Like, you know, Bresnikan, you know, knows how to ask like poignant questions. They're not just like, so was it cool making
Softball. How
music?
does it feel?
It
to
wasn't
make
the
music?
Chris Farley show. Like, remember when you did Black Panther? It was awesome. You know? So he revealed a lot of cool things. Like he said, like the same thing that he said in the Disney Gallery episode, though. They gave him a lot of creativity and you know, ability to expand his ideas and not just be like, sound like Star Wars. But I liked what he said about two things. One, how he related to John Williams, not by let me capture his sound, like kind of Kevin Kiner said. He's like, I'm going to try to capture that John Williams feel and do new things off of that. He went back to pre-Star Wars John Williams, and when John Williams was writing stuff like Earthquake, and how he learned how John Williams approached stuff like that back then. So he got into John Williams' headspace pre-Star Wars to create something new that wasn't Star Wars. I thought that was a very smart approach and something I've never heard anybody say before. So I thought that was amazing. I thought that was great. And then the other thing he said, the Baby Yoda stuff, the child music, he said, you know, evolved throughout each chapter subtly and built and married itself with the Mandalorians in the final chapter, which I thought was cool. But the best part was him saying that it was Favreau's idea to write the Baby Yoda music through the eyes of the Mandalorian and how the Mandalorian views the child. So first it starts with, you know, confusion, like what the hell is this thing? What is that? And then as he's starting to endear himself to him, the tones of that change. So, and it was Favreau's idea to write the child's music from the point of view of the Mandalorian, and that kind of like blew me away a little bit. The fact that not only Favreau being that involved, but knowing to take it from that angle, because when you have a lone character as your main hero and a puppet is the sidekick, there's not a lot of expression you could emote, and by doing that, you're adding more emotion to the Mandalorian himself, while also giving Baby Yoda his like theme. So I thought that was just so damn brilliant, and I'm glad he said that, because it almost takes a little bit away from him because it was Favreau's idea, but it shows his confidence again that he's able to like give that credit to Favreau, who doesn't need credit. We all know how great Favreau is, and he's still like confident enough to say that Favreau made the call there. So, and then the last part, that he's just starting, like maybe this week, writing the music for season 2. That really surprised me. Because
yeah.
It's you know, you got the trailer coming, which the trailer probably won't have music from the show. They usually don't. But it's less, 3 months away, and he said it was very difficult doing the music for season 1 because it was like doing 3 major motion picture films worth.
Right.
But maybe it's easier this time because he has the established themes, and now he can use them and layer them in different ways. So
I was waiting to jump in on that.
But he's probably going to need to create new themes, though, because you're going to have more characters coming in. Moff Gideon, maybe you add more there, so I just found
That's
that
fair.
If he seems a little late in the game, but maybe he's that kind of guy. He's like, I should probably do that.
No, I think this is about the time when which goes to show that that means that they're probably done editing, or really dang close to
they're done
editing the show.
They're done.
Yeah.
So,
do you know that? You're very confident on that.
I would bet they are.
They're done.
But I mean, I think even regardless of if John is saying he knows for sure or not, this, like I said, is proof to me that they're done, because they're saying,
let me tweet a
here's
GIF
the final,
cryptically,
here's the final, yeah,
showing that they're done.
Here's the final thing, and
just Mando like,
yeah. Good luck finding that GIF.
Get someone in a Mando helmet just going, it'll do it.
Yeah. Or it's like one of those things where it's just like a picture, but then like somebody put added hands, like green screen hands,
Perfect,
coming up from the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next story then. We have Leslye Headland, who is getting ready to take on a new Star Wars project, talking a little bit about the personal responsibility she feels for show running, something of that magnitude, if you will. So, to start this off, I totally understand where she's coming from, because one of her quotes involves, how much luck is involved in, receiving a Star Wars project in the first place. And that makes a lot of sense to me, understanding, this amount of work that you do, and still, no matter how hard you've worked, you're still being handed the reins to something that you're like, I don't know how I got it, because there's so many other hardworking, people in the industry. So a lot of weight on her shoulders. John, what do you think of this story and her response to receiving a Star Wars project?
I mean, it's certainly a big issue these days, with a huge spotlight on it in terms of minority groups, in terms of race and sexual orientation getting involved, and gender, with women getting involved in big productions. Star Wars has gotten a lot of flack for it, although I personally think they've done a lot, and they've come a long way. But the thing about these stories now is, like, we're hearing someone who's developing a Star Wars show. I mean, there's always projects in development. There's no info about her show, really. She doesn't talk about any details about the show. There's no time frame on the show. She doesn't say, we're going to start shooting in 2021. It's just kind of like very cloudy to me, and that's the strange part to me. I don't know. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this stuff, and I think it comes down to because we keep hearing this, that all these people are making these Star Wars shows and Star Wars movies, and they're all attached to these projects, and we're not getting details on it. I know that's not the focus of this article, but I think just from a Star Wars perspective, because we're a Star Wars podcast, it's a little frustrating that, like, she can't tell us anything that she's making. Like, while she's talking about, she feels lucky to have this stage, and now that she can help other people, and I get that, and that's great. I think that's great. But, like, is your show coming out in 2022, 2023? Is it going to be about specific characters? Like, last we heard, it was going to be female-centric, but not tied to anything that exists now. And then, we got the elephant in the room, which is, is Kathleen Kennedy going to be around? And if she goes, do all these projects go? Like, does someone clean slate this thing? Like, so I have a hard time getting excited about her involvement. I told you guys, I watched Russian Doll. I thought that was good. That was a good show. It is very adult. A lot of her stuff is very adult, so I don't know what kind of Star Wars we're going to get from her. Is she going to conform to Star Wars, or is Star Wars going to start changing and do adult-driven stuff, which I don't know if I like that. So I don't know what to think of her involvement, but we've had 2 or 3 articles and interviews about her now without still getting any information, and that's a little frustrating, I got to be honest. So until I get more info on what she's doing exactly, or a title or anything, I can't really say one way or the other what I think about her show running a Star Wars show. Like I said, I like her existing show. Russian Doll was good, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to like what she does with Star Wars. So I can't give too much on it.
Yeah. Well, Lacey, what any thoughts here on this story?
So I don't know a lot about her. I've seen Bachelorette, which is a movie she did, which I enjoyed, which we talked about before, which was very, like John said, adult, like drugs and sex and all those things.
Yeah, it's like Russian Doll was the same way.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any doubt that she has the ability to create interesting storytelling. But the question is, how is that going to translate to Star Wars? And I don't know much about her outside of the couple of interviews and panels that I've watched of her. I kind of feel like she doesn't translate well to text, because every interview I read with her, to me, reads a certain way that I'm like, is she being sarcastic? Is she joking here? Because they asked her, like, what's the hardest part? Which is like one of those, as we know, like kind of softball-y questions. I was like, how do you feel about this? What's the hardest part? Her response was, I hate writing. I don't like doing it. It's the worst part. And my mind immediately goes to, there are so many writers that would kill to be in your position to be writing a Star Wars show. Mm-hmm. Like, so I automatically get into that boat of like kind of protective. And I think it's because I'm a diehard Star Wars fan that I'm like, not that you should be grateful for this. That's not what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, I get a little protective that I'm like, but there are so many people that would kill to write a Star Wars show. And here you are on the main stage talking about how you hate writing and you dread it. And then she kind of had this very, I don't know, statement where she's like, well, sit down and I'll tell you how hard it is to pitch this for 6 months and then never hear back again. And it kind of came very condescending to me. And I was like, why would you talk like this? And I don't know if it's her personality. I don't know anything about her. But to me, I was just like, and I've said this before, like, I don't know if it's her attitude or the way she's presenting herself. So I'm concerned because I'm like, I don't know how that's going to translate with Star Wars fans. Because Star Wars fans grab on to everything as it is. So for someone to sit there and be like, oh, I hate writing, I guarantee there's already like 70 YouTube videos about how she hates writing and she's writing Star Wars and like, why would they choose this girl? Away from that, there was one part of the interview that I really did enjoy, and it was what John had said, where she talked about helping out other people and about how the best thing that you can do is send the elevator down to someone else or come get you. I think that translate not just in a creative fashion or in type of Star Wars show running. I think that translates into life, and I think that was a statement that I really could immediately latch onto, that I was like, as Star Wars fandom, we should constantly be sending down the elevator to others and sharing other stuff and supporting those that are working hard and creating good things within the community, just like she's saying. Like, it doesn't just have to happen at the top level of, oh, I'm doing a Star Wars movie, therefore I should help out other writers. Like, we as fans should also help out each other and support one another when we can. So I really liked that. Again, like John said, she hasn't said anything about the show. I don't know what the show's about, who the characters are, when it's coming. It's kind of like fill in the blank. But the first few answers, I don't know, just immediately I was like, what is she saying? Like, why would you say this in an interview?
I have a, like, this may come across as like controversial, but I have a fear of, say I watch her show and I don't like it, I have a fear of being called, like, I don't know, like anti-gay or something. And like, you know, people will do that because it's just how our culture is right now with the online and stuff. So I like have this anxiety, like, I hope it's a good show and I hope I like it, because I always want to give my honest take on things. But I hate the fact that that's going to be out there as some kind of, like, not defense mechanism, but almost like it's just this weaponized thing that's online where people just try to get you. If you don't like something, they try to say you're a bad person because this person happens to be gay or this person happens to be whatever. That makes me nervous, honestly, because I'm just going to take the show for what it is, and that's what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean?
I know that leading into The Rise of Skywalker, you had said the same thing, that you were like, I really hope this is a good movie because the fandom needs it right now. And we came out of that being like, oh no. Yeah. Some people are going to be unhappy. So I think that there's always some type of, and it shouldn't be. There shouldn't be some type of anxiety about it. But there is this kind of underlying anxiety of like, can we just have a win? Can we have a win together on this, which The Mandalorian has done? So I do have hope that live action TV will give us that, right, more than the movies have recently. But
I think that's why I want details on her show. Give me something.
Right. Like, shut up the people that are already against you because you're giving us something to argue for on your behalf, kind of.
Yes. You know? Right.
Yeah.
Like, is it going to be force-based? Is it going to be, like, espionage, like, off the cusp? Like, I don't know.
Right.
I wonder if we could track the first details we got of Mandalorian to when the show aired. you know.
Well, but
Of course, we don't know when the show's going to air, so it's kind of hard to say, like, you know, the time frame of, well, it's 6 months before it's supposed to come out, so we should be getting some, you know.
The only
I'm
details
pretty
we have...
sure it was August of 2017.
Or 2018.
No, because
2018.
we went into Celebration knowing about it.
Yeah.
Which was 2019,
19.
You're right. Yeah, it might have been 2018.
Yeah.
All we know is that they said this is a female-centric show that's going to have martial arts stunts, and that it has no ties to current timelines, I believe was the word.
Sure.
So who knows?
Just give us something. Something to be excited about, please.
Yeah.
To piggyback a little bit off of what you were saying, Lacey, because you kind of led me on another train of thought. I too read those comments and was like, this is weird, you know? I mean, like literally like verbatim what she says, I don't love writing. Writing is terrible, she admits. Pitching is exhausting when people are like, how do I pitch? And I'm like, well, sit down for a second. Let me explain to you, because it's working on that pitch for 6 months, and, you know, and then you, yeah.
I just think of all the people that dream of writing for Star Wars or just for television or being in Hollywood, and they're reading this article being like, I would give my right arm to be in your position. And this is the answer you're giving.
Yeah. So I think, like, to put a positive spin on this, because I think there's a way that you could, like, why would she be saying this? Because I think this is sometimes just like the train of thought. So, like, for instance, you know, we get it as podcasters, but I'll use the band example because I got that question all the time. It's like, what is your least favorite part about being in a band or writing a record?
Yes,
you know
and
what I mean?
Considered this when I was thinking about it,
And you're like, well, I mean, like, there's the writing process that, you know, that is good and bad. There's the tracking and recording process that's good and bad. So you come up with something, you're like, you know what, actually, it's probably the recording process, man. It just, I get nervous. I don't like it, you know, but at the end of the day, your point is, but it still comes out the way you want it to, you know?
And that's why I was saying, I think she just doesn't translate well to text.
I think she answered that question without being asked that question. It was like, what is your favorite part of the creative process? She's like, well, I'll tell you what my least favorite part is. It's this. But then she tries to, like, use that to circle back to, you know, something that is like why this can be, you know, a difficult thing, this process of being a creative person. So I don't know. I mean, but I think what you guys both said is exactly right. Like, it's just we're learning a little bit about this person, but like Lacey said, we're learning a little bit about this person and the personality, and we're trying to understand this person as a creative person in Star Wars, right? Then on John's point of view, it's like, how much of it do we take in right now? Is it worth it? Because we're not entirely sure what this project is, and we've been burned before believing, you know, that Benioff and Wise are doing a Star Wars movie, and there's no way that's falling through, you know?
Right, and all we have to base it on is the stuff that
things
she's done, which is so far away from what we know of Star Wars that you're like, okay, I have nothing to even compare to what I could see.
And I feel like we've...
But I feel like that's a Lucasfilm thing. Like, that's they're saying... I know. But, we have this thing for you, but we don't want you to talk about it yet, you know?
But, you know, there's been like I feel like we've had this discussion about her already, like a few months ago.
Yeah, we did.
And it's like there's been 2 or 3 interviews, and it's about her and her thoughts on the industry or whatever. And, you know, you don't even want to get into the Harvey Weinstein thing. She used to be his personal assistant, and now look what's happened to him. So I wonder if Disney's like, oh, geez. Like, so, you know, there's a lot to it. And again, it was one of those things like, it's possible this show never even comes to fruition because, you know, the more, you know, I always ask questions of people who are involved in the industry and stuff, and they're like, do you realize how many things are in development that just...
November 8th, 2017, Rian Johnson will be directing.
They're like, there's been a third Tron movie that's been kicked around for 10 years or whatever. Yeah. Like, it's just like, so who knows?
Forget the Tron, just give me another Daft Punk CD. I say CD, but I mean...
Give me another Tron. I love Tron. Tron's my, like, sleeper franchise.
You want to hear
it? Great.
I love
that soundtrack so much.
I've never seen any Tron movies.
John.
I called you Sean, but I was also mixed up in my words.
You call me Sean.
I was thinking has never seen and mix the
You're now
S
Sean Hoey?
sound with the
Yeah, well, you're
John.
Shame's Baney.
yeah.
Shame on you.
No, that's not surprising at all because if you miss the first Tron, no big deal. Obviously, that's not that
It really
crazy.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
If you mix the second one, that's also like, oh, that was in our time and it was like it was in the theaters or whatever. But like, it's not like everybody was blown away.
Mhm.
You know?
soundtrack is so good though.
Yeah, but Tron 2 is so good. I love.
I'd
Legacy,
go
man.
see it if Tron 3 happened.
Oh, I'm 100% there.
Are
Yeah.
the
First
Tron
day.
movies available? Are they on Disney Plus or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, all right, then I'll watch it. All right. The first one's on there?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. You know what? You know what's
What's it
interesting
about?
though?
A guy goes into a video game.
That was Ready
Yeah.
Player One.
No. Different than that.
No. Yeah.
You know they made books
I-
about those movies?
Oh my gosh. John
John.
is just saying that because I love that book so much. And the other day I was
Yeah.
like, they're making a second book. And John was like, there was a book? And I was so offended.
They're making a second Ready Player One book.
Yes, it's coming out in November,
Oh.
which originally they were.
shit.
That's the
But
Airheads
I'm
joke.
assuming that Ernest
Yeah, I
Cline
know.
was like,
Yeah.
I need some money. And they were like, well, make a second one. And so he wrote a second one because his second book, Armada, didn't do as well.
But John, I actually recommend that if you did want to watch the Tron movies, watch Tron Legacy first. The second one first. I think it'll actually do you a lot better because they do a really good job at like explaining
The first one.
what
Yeah.
the first one was about without you having to see it, and then you just go back and watch the first one for like Easter eggs and fun little connectivity stuff. Yeah.
Will do.
And Jeff
But-
Bridges.
Yeah.
I like Jeff Bridges.
Oh my gosh. All right, we have one more story to talk about, and that is the fact that Thrawn Ascendancy has released its first excerpt. Now, this is, of course, the book Chaos Rising that we're referring to, which is the first book of the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. That's right, 6 Thrawn books and still no Lost Stars too. I don't know what's going on.
That's so true. What?
But hey, I'm down for Thrawn. You guys know I love the character, probably the most on this podcast. So there's my thoughts, but I want to hear Lacey's thoughts first. What do you
My thoughts are that the cover is so wonderful with its graphic design that I think it's one of the best Star Wars covers I've seen. Those are my thoughts.
think? Wait a minute, really?
I read the chapter. It's a bunch of names with a bunch of apostrophes that I couldn't pronounce. And it
No,
was
I'm
like-
talking about the graphic design thing. I looked at that and I was like,
I really liked it.
Yikes.
I liked it.
It looks like Mad
I was like-
Men.
Yes,
I was like,
it
this
does.
kind of
It does.
to me, the poster that came out with it,
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it and was like, this might be the worst Star
No,
Wars
not
graphic
the blue
I've
one.
seen.
Not the blue one.
Oh,
The gray one. The gray one with the wedge that the guy's standing at a perspective
oh,
view.
yeah,
The cover
yeah,
of the
yeah.
book.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm too focused on the fact that they released the like pre-special or the pre-order graphic that poster that comes with it or whatever.
I didn't
don't
like
like
that, 'cause
that
it
graphic at all.
That graphic doesn't match anything they've ever done of Thrawn before that. Like, it looks nothing like the other versions of Thrawn. What is that? What is
It's
that
a song, but I don't know
What
what
Mad
song
song.
is
Men.
it?
It's the theme of Mad Men.
Oh, I've
Oh.
never seen Mad Men, so
Oh.
I
Yeah,
don't.
I me neither.
So you're singing a song
Um,
neither of us know what you're talking.
Yeah.
I want to know in the comments if someone, when they heard that, they were like, "That's the Mad Men theme," or they needed that.
Oh,
to
I'm
be
sure. Yeah.
It just sounded like a
But,
scary movie, like I was about to get murdered.
I thought it was like some like 70s. Da-da, 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 yeah. Mad Men,
But
crazy guy.
I did read the excerpt. Going back to Thrawn, it
Sure.
was a lot of like, "Sir, give me this report." "Yes, sir. Here's your pen." "Okay, I'm gonna give you this report." "Okay, jump in this." "Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Here are your papers." "Okay, this happened." "Great. Report back." And I was like, "This is not my thing." But the cover's cool.
John, what did you think?
Well, first of all, I'm loving. I want as many Thrawn books as possible because these titles are just getting so funny. It's like, like those generators, like title generators, and you could just like go online and like randomize a title. I feel like that's how like, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice or something. Like they just like, let's use the word dawn and then we'll come up with the rest later.
Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising,
Ascendancy,
Part 1.
Chaos Rising.
The existential being,
it's like Michael,
a man with a will.
It's like Michael Bay named this book. And it's like, bam, chaos, and it's rising. Chaos, but it's also chaos and it's rising.
Dark side of the moon. Dark
First
kingdom.
of all, ascendancy already is rising. The word itself is about rising. So basically it's Thrawn rising, chaos rising.
I hear ya.
And it's
I hear ya.
Then what it's like, so it's Thrawn rising, chaos rising is what the book is called. And then I start reading this thing. And I'm like, oh man, it's going to be like a Michael Bay. And then it's like, and then the ship came out of Sector 3. And then Sector 2 showed up. And Sector 1 was like, what are you doing here, Sector 3? And he's like, I'm Sector 2. And then set your photons for phasers. And then it's like, she's like all this like technical stuff. And I'm like, this is not Star Wars to me.
Can you please say the name of the character in there that I couldn't... Like, you guys kind of make fun of me on the show for getting names wrong. And it's totally valid.
Which character?
There were a bunch... There were at least two...
Ba'Keef?
Oh my god. How many
General
apostrophes
Ba'Keef?
are in that name?
One.
Just one? It looked like there were multiple.
Yeah.
And the C is always silent.
Are you thinking
Except in
of the
chess.
Mithran Yoroto? Like the big long name? That's his
that's
full
Thrawn.
chess name, and he shortens it to Thrawn. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know that she doesn't see that name and is like, what is this?
I read this chapter and I went, you know what? For once, I'm going to admit John was right, and they should just have more Dennises or Bobs or Toms.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. It was just like, these names are getting so out there that I feel like they're just like...
Like, can Thrawn have a sister, Dawn?
Gurnamarg. And you're like, what?
Mithdan Yoroto.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to say that.
Like, imagine being, like, in all honesty, like, an author or even worse, like an editor... like Tom Holler from like Del Rey, and having to like deal with this. Like, it's probably really annoying.
Well,
is it dealing with it, or is it like, oh, you need to fill in a name here?
Well, you have to edit it and make sure there's no typos, and there's like 14 consonants with 2 vowels, and then there's an apostrophe.
Oh, you're saying when he's proofreading it to make sure all these names are spelled
the
right.
copy editors, the proofreaders,
yeah.
all the checkers. Like, I'm from publishing, so I mean this is a disaster.
They just get the people who publish like
over there
Star Trek Klingon novels and stuff.
Well, Timothy Zahn's just like, that sounds good. He probably does this. He closes his eyes and he goes, tapping away at the type, and he looks and he's like, that's a name. That's the guy's name. And then he just goes like this. He puts a space in the middle and hits the apostrophe button, and he's like, T-Thrawn, T-la-doo-doodle-doo-doo.
It's turned into like when people online are like, oh my god, blah, blah, and they mash their keyboard. Like, those are Star Wars names now.
And look, it's a prequel to Thrawn, and it's a new trilogy, and people are wondering. All the people seem to care about Thrawn is, where did he and Ezra go? And for some reason, though, we're going back even before all that. So
they're descending.
I want to know I want to know what dirt Timothy Zahn has on the people over at Lucasfilm Disney Publishing, because the dude he's like, I got an idea for another trilogy, guys. They're like, what is it?
You know what it is, to be honest with you. I think it's
selling a lot of books.
It's probably that the Thrawn books sell more than any other books that they create.
Isn't it? Which is kind of... All right, let's put it this way. If it wasn't him, the guy who did the original... now Legends trilogy of Thrawn, which was all Star Wars was after the movies, because they thought Star Wars was done. This is before the prequels. That trilogy comes out. They're like, this is our new Star Wars now. This is our deal. If it wasn't him coming back, they would hate it. And it probably wouldn't sell well. These are the Legends people. This is the only Star Wars thing.
Do you know that, though?
Oh, this is my guess. The Legends people who hate Star Wars now probably still buy this, because it's their guy, Timothy Zahn.
maybe I get the Timothy Zahn aspect of it, but also like don't you think that the people who were like 7, 8, and 9 should have been the Heir to the Empire trilogy because that was good Star Wars, and then now this new Thrawn is like not their Thrawn. Like that's weird to them. So I'm not entirely sure that crowd came over. When you look at people like me, for instance, you know, I don't relate to the old Thrawn stuff. I like Thrawn the character because of what the author, granted it is the same author, but the author in this new era has created. I like that character, you know?
I'm not trying to be a hater, but just if you listen to our podcast, you know I don't like Thrawn. It's not even a bit. I'm not a fan, but I try to have fun with it. I'm not trying to hate on anybody who likes it. It's just I'm just being honest about it and just trying to have fun with it. That's all.
So this excerpt to me though, like I do hear the criticism, John. That's actually kind of funny. The rising, you know, but the book takes place. It's a prequel. And it's, you know, when we first met Thrawn, he was first coming up, but he was really just first coming up in the Empire. He already had a long legacy as a respected individual in his own people's society. So this is the story of him being young and respected by nobody and raising up. And this excerpt is, you know, a group of unknown individuals are attacking their people, and they're trying to figure out why somebody would do that. And because these people are very statistically driven. They're trying to figure out the means of this. And this is so off the wall that they're like, we need to ask someone who is a natural talent in strategy. And there's only one person we can think of, and that's just the introduction to Get Ready, right? So that's why I think the Ascendancy thing makes sense, because it's him when he was young.
Yeah.
And then of the 3 novels, like you have like, you know, the first and the second and the third's going to be the end. This is the beginning of the chaos. The chaos is rising. This is just the start of this trilogy. But the Ascendancy is, you know, like I said, the overlaying of where this takes place, which I believe now we're kind of speculating it's like during or like right around the beginning of the Clone Wars, probably based on age. I understand what you guys are talking about with the names. The nightmare for me is that I usually get these books. This is a positive. I get the books early. The nightmare is the fact that I usually listen on an audiobook and I don't have a visual representation of that name that I just heard. I don't know how to spell that.
Right.
So therefore, number one, I can't look it up on Wikipedia because the book's not out and Wikipedia is not filled out, so it's hard to kind of reference. But the other thing is that now I don't even know how to spell it, so if that character was involved in other properties before, I have to try to spell it by ear to see if I can find that person. It's tricky. This is what makes doing the book discussions, I don't know. What's the hardest part about doing book discussions? Going back to the other thing.
Oh yeah.
Probably just trying to keep everything straight.
Just talking.
But I'm excited. Yeah. Who's talking? What are the names of these characters and stuff? But I'm very excited for the book. I'm going to be reading it as soon as it comes out. So that's it then, I guess. Anything else, guys?
No,
John, I think you have to once
it.
again tell us what you think of Thrawn.
Yeah. Does he make you blue?
Thrawn makes me yawn. Get your Thrawn on, folks. Enjoy your Thrawn. Do it.
All right, Lacey, take us on to the next section. What's it called?
So coming up now is our Patreon pod race. So there are lots of ways you can support us on different platforms like YouTube. You can like, comment, and subscribe on this video. You can follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. And then also, you can head over to patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast, where you can support us at all different tiers, starting at $2 a month. And the top tiers get to be a part of the show. So this is their chance. It's called the Patreon Pod Race. We give them a question, and then they give their answer, and we react to it. So First, we want to thank our generals. So we want to thank Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, Micah Harrison, Michael Gaines, Jetta Rosewater, Bethany, Russ Harbison, and Kendall Gelnar. So thank you guys so much. And we're going to head to General Russ this week, which we're super excited about.
Yeah, Russ.
It's his first time on the pod race. And his question is, as an avid gamer who loves a galaxy far, far away, pitch your ideal Star Wars video game that you would get most excited for and pick up and play. So Russ, take it away.
Hey, John, James, Lacey. So, for me, a really cool idea for a Star Wars video game would be something similar to a Metal Gear Solid type of game. You know, maybe set during the Galactic Civil War era, you play as a rebel spy, and you have to just go into all these different Imperial bases and sneak around, steal plans, stuff like that. I think that would be pretty cool in a Star Wars setting for the stealth aspects of it. You know, basically just trying not to get caught and stuff. They don't want to get everyone there. I may be wrong here, but I can't really think of any previous Star Wars games that are just purely stealth-based stuff like that, so I think it'd be something really cool and interesting to see in that universe. Thanks for having me on. Have a good one.
Awesome job, Russ. So, John, what did you think?
I like anytime there is a semblance of calm when it comes to a game. And I know, like, it's probably a tough game that you're pitching, but I feel like it's one of those, like, you gave me the feeling of, like, Obi-Wan kind of creeping, sneaking around the Death Star, trying to be like a spy and like hiding and trying not to be found. And I like those types of games, actually. There was a Wolverine game I played back in the day for PS2 that was kind of like that, where you had to sneak into the complex. I liked the Batman games like Arkham City, where you had to kind of do detective work and go around town and not get caught. I love that type of stuff. So if that's the type of thing you're talking about, I'm down with that. I think what turns me off with some Star Wars games is the overwhelming stuff, like the Battlefront multiplayer, where you can just get spawned and then brained and you're out. Because I'm not as good as video games I used to be. Like, I will crush some NES and some Sega and some N64, and I will dominate. But
I bet you're not as good as you think you are.
The games, probably not. I'm not, but I'm worse at modern games than I was then. So, but I do like your idea, Russ. I think that's pretty cool. I'd probably check that out. I'd probably play that if they did it. So, pitch it. And thanks, dude. Thanks for all the support. You're so fun in the chats and everything, and love seeing you on our calls with the generals and admirals. And hope you're well, man. Thank you, buddy.
James?
Huge Metal Gear fan over here, by the way. Yeah.
Do you play it, or do you watch people play it?
So here's the thing is, like, I followed Metal Gear all the way up to a certain point, and then I think they started going on PS4, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do this or whatever. But Metal Gear is one of those franchises that if you're not in it, you lose it real fast.
In it to win it?
Because the stuff that they talk about is like, sometimes it's like Kingdom Hearts level, like none of this makes any sense at all. You have to be like 100% in it, because if you just start explaining it to people, it's like I'm not following the story. Like, you can't just tell somebody what happened in that game. You have to play it.
Right.
So I've kind of fallen off on the franchise from 5 on. But I love it. I still love the idea of it, the concept of it, the gameplay of it, and the general idea. So if you were to just say a stealth game, yeah, I'm like, I picture this, like, I see it working. And I like it because you could have a character like a Psycho Mantis or something like that, you know, that is using the Force to some degree, but your main character is going to encounter someone like this and just have to work around it. Your ability is going to be based on your physical ability to fight hand to hand and stuff like that. Now, I really think this could be a cool game, especially when you look at something like Rogue One, for instance. You know, those characters were lead characters who were heroes, and they didn't have the Force. So
Yeah.
I love it.
This
Good one, Russ.
The sneaking around just makes me think of Ewok Hunt, where you're trying to like get through the forest and not die. So if that's what you're thinking of, then absolutely I'm in. That game is so scary. But yeah, no, great answer, Russ. We're so excited that you were a part of the pod race this week. We love having you in the community, and thank you so much for supporting us and just being so active. It's been really great. Side note, what games would you guys want to see? Like if you were to pitch your own game. Yeah, I want a Mario Kart or a Mario Party type Star Wars game.
Wow. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to do like vintage, like when they would do games based on like the movies. Like give me a solo video game and I have to do the Kessel Run and stuff. And like I have to steal the spice or the coaxium from the mines.
Like story mode game?
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. James?
You're saying like a solo game where like you take on different jobs?
Yeah, sure.
And then you like fly the Falcon through different cityscapes and stuff? That could be cool. I just want to see like a basic action adventure game, but on mobile. Like oftentimes what they do on mobile is they try to like do like a pay to play and or play to win or whatever. I don't know all that stuff is called, but oftentimes it just feels like it's like loot boxes and you're getting awards and it's like, this is annoying. I just want a game where I'm like the character and like I move the joystick and he goes and hack and slash. But like, you know, I guess that's not really like a platformer, but you know what I'm saying? Like 3D platformer style action adventure game on mobile. That's what I want. Yep.
Cool.
That's it.
Well,
Lacey wants games where she can kill people.
Yeah, just kill everyone.
Death.
So yeah, thanks so much. We're gonna now go to more from you guys with Ask the Resistance. John?
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Yes, that's right. So if you send us questions on Twitter, mostly at RBATSWNN using hashtag AskTheResistance, or if you email us a question, or if you're a Resistance officer on Patreon and you submit them to us, however you do it, we pick them and we get you on the show. And these folks made it this week. So we have Cheryl R at Cheryl R 688-12826, and Cheryl asked, "Hi from the UK. My question is,
Hi, Cheryl.
If Anakin or Ben had lived, what do you think would have been the consequences of their actions that the galaxy would have demanded?" So, Lacey, I'm going to throw this one at you. What do you got for Cheryl?
Hey, Cheryl. Thanks for your question. We appreciate it. I hope everything is going well in the UK. Fun fact, my favorite type of tea is from the UK. All right.
They have good tea over there.
They do. They really do. So I'm kind of at a loss here only because I don't know, like, I'm sure someone knows the exact answer of, like, how they would treat war criminals or something like that in the New Republic. And, like, we get an idea of it here and there, but I'm sure in some book it explains what they do. But I would like to think that if Ben survived, which I was hoping that he would have, he would have to pay for what he did. But it's in a different way than I think Anakin would. Because Anakin, and we talked about this, I think, leading up to the Rise of Skywalker, he killed a room of kids. So for me, that's at like a different level than someone that kills people when they're in a war. Because people kill on both sides, like Poe Dameron killed people. So that's different than consciously walking into a room of children and slaughtering them. So I feel like that's where I would be like, well, if Anakin survived, he would have to pay some type of big, like, he'd have to go to jail forever. Whereas I feel like if Ben eventually switched sides and fought on the right side, he would pay some type of debt, but nothing too crazy, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think he would get the same extreme treatment that Anakin would get.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on. Thank you, Cheryl. Good job, Lacey. All right. Next one is Jay MacArthur at Sandwich Guy J.
Does he like sandwiches?
Yeah,
Probably.
unless he runs a food truck called Sandwich Guy.
Does anybody not
J.
like sandwiches?
Depends on the sandwich.
I know, but if you don't like one sandwich, you probably like another. Is there anybody that's just like, oh, sandwiches,
There's gonna be
all of them?
There's gonna be one person in the comments that's like, sandwiches are the worst.
You have to hold them and then
unsubscribe.
yeah.
Do you think anyone eats sandwiches with forks and knives?
Yeah,
Matt does.
sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Does he also eat Snickers bars with a fork and knife?
Nobody eats pizza that way.
Sicilian? Or like all pizza?
He eats burritos that way, pizza that way.
Oh, well,
I mean-
if you get a grande burrito that's like the size of a football, I get it. Look. I want a burrito right now. So bad. All right. James, will we ever see Octo again on the big screen? Not Disney Plus. Don't you Disney Plus Octo, man. And would it only be Ray?
Who goes there?
And this is, again, Jay MacArthur at Sandwich Guy J. And Jay, you got to let us know what the deal is with that handle, dude. Do you run a deli?
John really wants a burrito right now. He's really
do.
hungry.
I really would eat a burrito like crazy.
I would love to see Octo again, and I think it would make a lot of sense. Like, for instance, when we were talking about, or when we, as a Star Wars fan community, were thinking about the Benioff and Weiss stuff that we were talking about earlier, right? We were like, oh man, what a good opportunity to bring it back. The origins of the Jedi. Oh, the first Jedi temple. That's a perfect opportunity. I think yes. I think we will, because I think that regardless of who makes it, somewhere down the line, they're probably still going to want to do that whole like origins of, because that's how Hollywood works. Like, we have a big hit and then we want to go back and do the origins of said hit. So I think that the whole fact that was going to happen probably still points to the possibility that they still want to explore that world and that timeline. And that's big screen stuff. So they have a perfect way to loosely connect to other stuff that they've seen, and it's Disney canon. So yeah, I think we will.
Nice. And they could
Just don't know when.
potentially use the volume and not necessarily always have to go back to Skellig Michael, which is seasonal.
Actually, I should throw that in there too, is that part of my reasoning for thinking of it is because the I don't know what country is it? Ireland, yeah. They were like, yes, please. And they were like, I feel like they got a lot of tourism and other things from that, so they would probably welcome it again. It's like New Zealand and Lord of the Rings. Like, they were very welcome to the idea of Hobbit returning, because they were like, you don't know how it's changed our what's it called?
Tourism.
Yeah, tourism isn't the right word. I'm looking for this
Economics?
Yeah, something
Economy.
like that. Economy, that's the word I'm looking for. I was like, it starts with a C, but it started with economy.
I'll never forget the week after Celebration Europe 2016. Like, we're talking probably a day later, 2 days later. I was in Ireland after the fact, in Dingle, outside of where they shot it. And we stayed at the hotel that they stayed at. And there was a big notice saying from Lucasfilm being like, thank you for having us. You guys are so nice. And it's signed by Rian Johnson. Oh. No, the point I'm making, John, is that I missed them. Not that I'm bragging that I'm staying at the hotel. That it was, the guy at the counter was like, oh, they were here 2 days ago. And I was like, no.
Too bad.
Yeah.
All right. What, James?
That's it.
All right. Zanjo Most at Old Master 357 asked, if the franchise were to take a time jump forward, could you see them incorporating any of the legacy character stories into a TV show or movie? Cade Skywalker, Darth Krayt, Talon, Nile, etc. I wonder if he means nihilist. So legacy, he doesn't mean legacy the way we understand it. He means like legends characters, I think. Is that what he means? Because these people aren't canon, right? Darth Krayt, is that canon? Cade Skywalker? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Zanjo, I don't think so. My whole adage is, I mean, obviously it's funny, we just talked about Thrawn for a while, so the precedent is there for them to do it. But I think Thrawn happened again because Timothy Zahn came back. So you can make that change without lighting fans on fire and ticking people off by giving their precious character to someone new to write. The same guy wrote it, so it's hard to critique it. In these situations, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, as I say around here, because they don't need to bring these characters in. So why do it when all it will probably cause is a firestorm? That whole "you ruined my character, you didn't do it right" or whatever. It's just really not worth it. So I don't think they're ever going to do that. I think they retconned. I don't even want to say retcon, because honestly, the expanded universe stuff was never really canon, if you want to be honest about it. George Lucas never considered it part of his canon. Yeah, I just don't think so. And that's not an admonishment, against the stories and all that stuff. There's some fun stuff in there, except when they killed Chewie with a moon. But yeah, I really don't think that's gonna happen. I'm wondering if you pitched it or you asked it because you hope that they do it. So maybe they will. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I just don't see it happening. I really don't. So that's my answer. All right. Last one real quick here. Beer Fett at beer_Fett. What's up, Bethany? In your opinion, real quick here, guys, in your opinion, which is the best band featured in the Star Wars movies?
Oh, I got this. In Sync, right?
Cantina Band.
The modal nodes?
Yep.
That's wrong.
Okay. To you.
Those guys play like one song.
What's your point? Where are you going?
Nope.
They play two songs.
They play two songs.
Yeah, two songs.
And there's a third song on the Batu soundtrack from them.
Yeah, John.
The Oga's Cantina.
I think Max Rebo Band. Right? Very eclectic group. James, what do you really think?
Does NSYNC not count? They were almost in Attack of the Clones.
No, they do not count, James. And they're not a band.
They do count. And yes, they are a band.
They're not a band.
Yeah, what are you talking? Yeah, they're a band.
They're a band.
I don't know. My first thought was the Max Rebo Band as well, because of the I like the song that they removed. I always thought it was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. They replaced it with Jedi Rocks, which is, I don't think that's Max Rebo, right?
It's his band, but then they have the other singers. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that was kind of like, if, that's like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. It's like, it's like, really, it's like this guy. But I like the Maz band too, with Jabba Flow.
Oh yeah. J.J. Abrams on the mic.
Yep, so there you go.
All right. Very good. That is it, guys. That brings us to the end of the show. We want to thank everyone for listening and watching and being a part of the Resistance. Make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there, so subscribe, because we're at you 2 days a week. And, of course, the Mando Fan Show will be coming back, so that's 3 days a week. I mean, just subscribe. Seriously. Enough's enough. Make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for all of your Star Wars news.
Hit the bell.
Right, hit the bell. We talked about it before. Teespring.com/store/Resistance Broadcast if you want to get Make Solo 2 happen, or our logo shirt, or some of our other gear. Gary the Porg. Good stuff. What else here? Patreon. We went over that.
Contest.
Yeah. So yeah, let's touch on that new contest, Lacey. What's the deal with that?
You go ahead. You explain what the contest is.
Okay, so you are going to... Let's see if I get this right.
Yes, go ahead.
Because we haven't even officially launched it, so it's all still in the working stages here. So Jewelry Brands is providing us with some cool stuff to give away. What you're going to do is find our tweet that we're posting today. We're giving away the client from The Mandalorian, his necklace with the Empire medallion on it.
Yep.
And a pin of Baby Yoda eating a frog.
Snack time.
An enamel pin, yes. And all you have to do is be following us on Twitter at RBATSWNN and retweet that tweet. That is it. You'll be entered to win. And we're also doing something on Instagram. What are they doing on Instagram?
So Instagram, you're going to follow us, follow Jewelry Brands. It's on our Instagram account, and then you're entered to win there too. There's 2 chances to win, so make sure you follow us on both Twitter and Instagram.
Yes. 2 chances are better than 1, so do that.
And thank you to Jewelry Brands for...
2 chances are better than 1.
Yeah. Thank you, Jewelry Brands. I think that's... Why do I feel like I'm missing something? We did the patrons. We did everything, right? Yeah.
Go watch Solo. That's the only thing you're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you better watch Solo. Monsters. And do it on Disney Plus. Even if you own it, just watch it on Disney Plus. Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and always preach and make Solo 2 happen, and at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
Lacey?
People can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran.
That is another TRB in the books, but we will be back with you guys on Thursday, where we're going to be getting back into the Kessel Run. We'll be doing the 12 best cameos in Star Wars history, in our opinion. So enjoy your weeks. We hope you're all well, and we'll see you on Thursday morning right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.